Let's head into the KUAM News Zoom room, shall we, on a Monday? Next interview, Carlotta Leon Guerrero is the governor's chief advisor on military and regional affairs, and she's coming on because there's been discussions that I believe started, well, at least publicly revealed last week, about Guam holding a bunch of refugees from Afghanistan. Now, these are possibly right. These are Afghanis who aided U.S. forces in a variety of things, whether as interpreters or support, right? Civilian support for operations that the U.S. military did in Afghanistan. And so that was the talk. We don't know how many are possibly coming, but so we're just getting Carlotta on to kind of hopefully shed a little light on this. Good morning, Carlotta.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Sabrina, and good morning, Guam.
Good morning.
Good morning, Guam. So what's cracking on this Afghan refugee thing? Everyone's talking about it this weekend.
Well, the first thing that I would say is, just to give a little background on it, is that the U.S. forces are being pulled out of Afghanistan by September. This is something that President Biden has directed. And because of that, there are a number of veterans organizations, 15 lawmakers in the U.S. Congress have written a letter to President Biden's administration saying that they have to take care of key Afghani personnel, translators, interpreters, as well as their family. They can't leave them behind. And a number of refugee organizations, notably one called No One Left Behind, are also pressing the Biden administration. They're pressing them to organize a large-scale evacuation of these endangered personnel to get them to safety while they review their applications and vet them. So that's the scenario of what's going on. And the size of it is, according to all the reports that I've been reading, there are 17,000 applications for a special immigrant visa that was allowed in 2009 for Afghanis employed by the U.S. to take advantage of it. But these 17,000 have created a backlog and they haven't been cleared, but it kind of gives you an idea of the magnitude of the size of the evacuation. And estimates are that every one of them would have a minimum of 3 to 4 family members. So when you start multiplying it out, you're hitting the 70,000 plus number.
Wow.
Just to also let you know, oh, sorry, I'll pause there.
No, yeah, because that's the number I heard over the weekend. I was like, that can't be right. It's got to be like 7,000, but 70,000.
And I think what also
so when you take the number, there's 17,000 backlogged applications, and you multiply it by a minimum of 3 to 4 family members. But I would like to say that the governor, in speaking with the governor has not been notified that Guam is being considered as a staging site. She has not been notified by the State Department, Department of Defense, the Biden administration, that we are being considered as a staging site for evacuation of these key Afghani personnel, and so that they can be in a safe place while their applications are being reviewed. Advocates for evacuation are saying Guam is a possible location, as well as bases in Qatar and the United Arab Emirates.
What about, have you heard anything from Congressman Nicholas or Madeline Berdallo, who's in D.C.?
No. I've checked in with the congressman's office. I've also checked in with the State Department. The closest State Department official to us is the U.S. ambassador to the FSM, Ambassador Cantor. And she was on Guam, stranded here because she couldn't get flown back into Pohnpei. And so everybody got to know her. So I checked in with her, and she hadn't heard anything either. So the stories coming out, the reports coming out, the Department of Defense says, yes, this is something we are capable of doing, and we could do it if asked, but we haven't been asked. The Security Council, State Department says that the safety of our Afghani allies that have helped us is very important to us, and we're looking and we're reviewing it. But that's as far that's as far as it's gotten right now. Guam has not been officially notified that they would have a role in this.
So how real is it then, Carlotta? I mean, in a similar situation at this point, as public and as reported as a lot of these discussions are, would there have been some kind of contacting of the governor by now at this point?
I wasn't around when the Kurdish, well, I was a journalist when the Kurdish evacuation took place, and I was in college when the Vietnamese evacuation took place. So I'm not real familiar with it, but in checking on it, the very fact that the governor hasn't been notified, and I think if the congressman had been notified, he also would have shared that with us. He is, his office has not responded to my questions yet. And we have a good relationship with DOD, and we haven't been notified. And I don't know the process, and I don't know how fast they could notify, and how much notice they would give you if they do, if we are directed to take the evacuation personnel.
Yeah, 70,000 is a lot, and I'm just kind of wondering if Anderson or Big Navy have the kind of facilities to kind of
I mean,
facilitate.
I guess a good test
But
run.
I guess not all of them would come at one time. You know, reading that article on Defense
Well,
One.
I think that's the thing, is that the U.S. personnel pull out by September. And so this one group, the one that's raising Guam a lot, is this one group, No One Left Behind.
Yeah.
They even went so far as to figure out how many flights it would have to take if they started right now. So all the reports that are coming out would be to not wait until September to begin the evacuation as soon as possible in order to get a grip on it. Yeah. But as I said, the governor has not been notified that Guam is being considered.
Carlotta, I know it's probably early in the conversation for this type of question, but what concerns, if any, are there about the possibility of any ISIS or Taliban people slipping in with these 70-some thousand?
Well, I think we just have to look at something that happened a number of years ago. Sabrina, I think you were a journalist at the time. There were like 900 people that came ashore on Guam in boats. Do you remember that, Bree?
Oh, yeah, I remember.
You guys,
every weekend.
And in that group, sorry?
No, I was going to say it was like every single weekend we had boats coming through.
Right. Alien invasion.
It ended up being about 900. And in that group was this key leader of a movement that had gotten in, of some kind of rebel movement that had gotten into that group, that it was quite concerning. So it was, as you were saying, Chris, who could slip into that group. Because we've seen that happen when there were just 900 people that came ashore in boats a while ago.
Oh. Well, it's a lot to unpack on a Monday morning, Carlotta.
I know. And, you know, just going back to that article, it was 300 flights, 3 flights per day in order to meet that September 11 deadline, with 70,000 Afghan refugees possibly coming through here.
Yes, that is a lot, the logistics of it. But as I read, I did all this research. The Department of Defense says that if asked to do that, that is definitely something in their wheelhouse. It's something they are capable of pulling off that kind of an evacuation. The big question is, where would they take them to? And would it be, it's possible that it might be multiple sites.
Right. Yeah.
In order to minimize the impact to any one place.
So what's that conversation like, Carlotta, when we have all this movement around us through media and other types of reporting, but we haven't had any contact to the governor? So when you discuss this with her, what's her takeaway? Is it, I mean, are we still kind of, how do you prep for something that you haven't been clued in on?
Well, I'm like you guys. I'm kind of like a nosy reporter. Once a nosy reporter, always a nosy reporter. So what I've been doing is doing the research, reading the articles, keeping up on everything. So I've just had brief conversations with the governor, and she's encouraged me to just keep digging, keep the connection. So, I've called over to Joint Region Marianas. I've called to the congressman's office. I've touched bases with the closest State Department officials that I know. I'm reading all the different articles. So just getting up on it and staying on top of it is what we're doing right now. But as I said, the governor has not been officially notified that Guam is being considered as a staging site for a possible evacuation from Afghanistan of key personnel.
So you said you have not heard back from Congressman St. Nicholas yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
But I just reached out to him over the weekend. So what I do know is that there were 15 members of Congress that wrote a letter to the Biden administration saying we must take care of our Afghani allies. And I could tell from reading the articles about this that many of the ones that signed on to the letter were veterans that served in Afghanistan, and so are getting calls themselves from former friends and colleagues that are terrified of what's going to happen to them if they are left behind.
Yeah, when you watch, or if you watch that House Foreign Affairs hearing last week, I think it was either Tuesday or Wednesday, you definitely could hear the concerns from several of the congressmen, especially Brian Mast from Florida. He used the word, I think, was it slaughtered or something like that. It was just really tragic, and sad to think that this could possibly happen. Yeah.
I mean, that also just raises the question, like, with the U.S. withdrawal, if we're leaving behind a situation where, like, anybody who helped the U.S. is just going to get slaughtered, I mean, is it withdrawal the best decision?
And I was thinking...
Yes, that's it.
Go ahead.
The kind of articles that I'm reading, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know who has experience in this sort of situation?
Oh, Bree.
Former governor.
Uncle Carl! Yep.
He was governor, I want to say,
Kurds.
during the Kurds. Yeah.
Guys, just
who was the congressperson? Was
history lesson real quick. Sabrina, this situation we're talking about with the Afghan refugees, it's not anything novel to Guam because of our, tip of the spearness. But Bree, this has happened twice before in Guam's history, right?
Yeah, I wasn't here for the Vietnamese refugees, but
Neither
I was
was
here
I.
for the Operation Pacific Haven. And I remember the flight coming in from Anderson Air Force Base and how they were staying over at Andy South. And that's where they were being housed. It was a lot. I remember it was a lot of flights that came in.
To give you an idea, Sabrina, there was about 6,000 Kurds that were evacuated to Guam, and it took 4 months to clear them, to vet them and clear them and move them on deeper into the United States. So if you multiply that and do the math on 70,000, that would be more than 40 months. So the expectation of what could happen to a jurisdiction and how long that process could be, it's just to give you an idea of how long it took to clear the Kurds. And there was another evacuation, not too many people are aware of it, that Guam was a part of, but when Pinatubo went off, many of the military personnel from Subic and Clark were evacuated over here until they moved back into the U.S., but to get them immediately out of Clark and Subic because of that volcano. So because of a volcano eruption, Guam was also the closest point to be able to jump in and help.
Right. We did have a couple of comments here. Bev writes in, if they're placed on Guam, how long will they be staged here before entry to the mainland U.S.? And then she also writes, or would they be eligible to somewhat become residents of Guam? Bev, we're way early for those kind of questions. As this is being discussed in the national, international media, our governor hasn't even been contacted about it, so we'll see.
And also,
we're definitely on top of this. We're doing everything we can. We're plugged in every way that we could possibly be plugged in, and I'm sure our congressman is also, his office, I'm sure he's also plugged in and paying close attention to this.
Yeah. I know, Chris, you kind of mentioned it when we were off air about this possible humanitarian operation involving Guam, but then you factor in concerns about COVID.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure. I'm wondering if that's also part of. No, it probably is more than likely a big part of the discussions, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, would there be? I mean, it's early, but would there be screening? Are we going to vaccinate these people? You know that.
So many.
Yes, and I can assure you that we will keep you posted on any developments, anything that we hear. As soon as the governor, if the governor hears anything, we'll be sure to let the folks know.
Carlotta, so I know in the past, especially over the last year, the governor has really kind of played up her relationship with Indo-PACOM. So even though she hasn't been contacted by anybody, at what point does she start putting her feelers out to say, hey, is something going on? I read something on the internet.
Well, we have just what I said is I reached out to Joint Region Marianas. I touched bases with the closest U.S. ambassador to Guam, and I reached out to our congressman, and I know our congressman is also going into state and Department of Defense. So we're inquiring. We are aggressively inquiring.
We just got a comment from our friend Dr. Hoa Wen. Guam should help on the refugees evacuation. Those people will likely get killed. I was 14 years old when I was one of the refugees from Vietnam. Our family truly appreciated the people of Guam and this opportunity to give us a new life. Wow.
Wow. Yeah. Well, there is no doubt that we have an important history in helping people that were evacuated out of war-torn or disaster areas, and it's a proud history that we have.
Right on. Have we squeezed everything out of you, Carlotta? Is there any more juicy nuggets you're hiding in there?
No, you got everything.
Well, thank you. It's good to see you.
Good to see you guys. Thank you for asking.
All right, Carlotta. Thank you for gushing.
Bye.
Okay.
Take care.
See you.